we really have to involve the community, because if we don't, conservation feels really artificial. The community has to understand why it's important to preserve this. Scientific research, these things are not really accessible. Really important to get this knowledge outside of just the scientific community. We have to do research hand in hand with conservation, and sometimes I would say even prioritize conservation first. By the time we have a lot of information, some of these species will be already gone because some of them are so fragile.
Welcome back to another episode of Resilience Tracks, the podcast where we follow the tracks of next generation of environmental leaders working to build a more resilient future on Earth. So today again, we're joined by another amazing guest. She is a biology major, has done a lot of researches with the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute, National Geographic, Darwin 200, and many more, but I'll leave some for her to disclose. So without any further ado, let's welcome Nardi. Hi Nardi, welcome to the Resilience Tracks podcast, and how are you doing?
Hi Noveera, I'm really happy to be here. I'm really honored to be in this podcast, and I'm doing very well. Thank you.
So my first question, as you already saw that I did not reveal a lot about you, so please go ahead and introduce yourself to us.
Okay, so I'm Nardi de la Torre. I'm a marine biologist. I studied biology at university, and I'm mostly focused on coastal ecosystems, on coral reefs, for example. But in general, I'm interested in the conservation of our beautiful planet. Also, I like to do public outreach. I've been involved in these different projects and also in some local initiatives and with some local organizations. Yeah, that's me. Thanks for having me here.
No problem. Well, that's really amazing. What was your inspiration for particularly coming in conservation? Because being a biology student and then particularly having so much interest in conservation, like where did you get that inspiration from?
So I feel like I get this inspiration from my family and my country. Since I was a kid, my parents used to take me out to nature. We would, for example, go to a river or explore these beautiful places that my country had to offer. So I feel like I always wanted to be involved in conservation. And growing up, I decided that studying biology would be a great way to do both conservation and also to be involved in doing research in science. That is something that I also discovered I loved through high school. So yeah, I feel like my love for nature and also why I decided to pick this career comes from my family and my country.
Wow, that's so sweet and so amazing. So you're also currently working with Darwin 200. So I would love to know if you could explain a little bit more about it.
Yeah, sure. So right now I'm working with the university where I studied. It's a university from Ecuador called Universidad San Francisco de Quito, and I am a TA for a couple of classes. I'm a TA for a scientific writing class, and also I'm a TA for a diving class. Yeah, and the Darwin 200 project we did most of this project in November 2024, so last year, but some of in this project, they would take conservationists from all over the world, and they would take us to different countries to see the conservation work that they were doing there and get involved with the community, so we could really get an understanding of how conservation is being done in all these different wonderful parts of the world. I went to New Zealand, and this happened in November 2024. I stayed there for 2 weeks, one doing the project and one exploring this beautiful country. And after that, we analyzed the information we got, the interviews we did, and we did 3 short films showing the conservation work that they are doing there. So that took a little bit longer. And right now we are in the process of presenting this work in different places, like for example in my university.
I really love the whole idea of how it is basically community-based focus, like how you can learn from the community. So I think it's a really amazing thing about the project. Okay, so I was looking for a profile, and during the Darwin 200, I think you also participated in the conservation of an Australasian bittern, an endangered species. So can you brief us a little bit more about it? Like, what was the threat, and then how did you overcome the threat?
The Australasian bittern is basically this big bird that is native to New Zealand and Australia and is very endangered. And so people are doing what they can to preserve this species. It is endangered basically because a lot of wetlands that are its habitat were destroyed when people from Europe came to New Zealand. Before that, people like Polynesian people had also come there, but I think their relationship with the wetlands specifically was more balanced. So these habitats were not destroyed when they came there, but when Europeans came there, a lot of them were used for agriculture and to build houses, build towns. So the bittern lost their habitats, and right now they're also threatened because of introduced predators and like cats and rats and mustelids, and because of car accidents, basically, because when they see a car, they will freeze, so the car can easily like kill them. And yeah, the community is doing a lot of work to preserve them. So they're trying to build like these little wetlands in their backyards. They are also doing surveys to count how many bitterns they hear or how many bitterns they see. Scientists are giving communities and, for example, schools these traps to place so that they can protect bitterns against invasive predators. And this project was really cool because I got to see all of this. I got to see that the community is super involved in this, and like even little kids know a lot about this species, and they are really proud to take care of their species. So I think, it was really cool to see how they do things there and to bring some of that to my country.
That's really amazing knowing that the community actually loved and knew about that bird, because mostly it happens that the community is unaware or they don't have a good perception for the endangered animals. When it comes to conservation, what do you think is the best strategy to conserve, whether it's marine ecosystem animals or terrestrial ecosystems, but what's the best strategy that we can go for conservation?
Yeah, I feel like involving the people that are directly affected by this, for example, the resource that we have to preserve or the ecosystem that we want to conserve. I don't know if that's the word, sorry. We really have to involve the community and the local stakeholders, because if we don't involve them, conservation feels really artificial, like it's not going to be effective and long lasting, because the community has to understand why it's important to preserve this. For example, fishermen have a lot of knowledge that they have acquired through generations. So also this knowledge can be really useful to do science and to inform conservation measures, basically involving the community, not leaving them outside of conservation.
I'm glad that you have this, that you agree with this, because there's so many people that I've met and they do not actually agree with this. Like in Pakistan, because I also have a lot of interest in community-based natural resource management. But when I say it, some people are like, it's not going to work, or we don't need to involve community. But I believe that no policies or no laws can work until and unless you are involving the community, because like you said, that they have knowledge that we don't. So I'm really happy that you actually agreed on this fact as well.
No, yeah, totally. And it would be really cool to also hear more about the work you're doing in Pakistan afterwards.
Sure. You've also done like a lot of research projects, such as on the captive reproduction of butterflies, on humpback whales, algae, and corals, as you mentioned earlier. I want to know that which one of these projects was favorite. Like if you could pick one that was your favorite most, and tell us a little bit more about it.
I feel like, oh my God, that would be really hard. But I really like doing humpback whale research. I feel like I've never seen whales so close before. And it was really cool because I was taking pictures of the whales to do photo ID from a tourist boat. So I would get to talk to a lot of people from different parts of the world and also from different parts of my country. And I feel like getting to know them and hearing their stories was really cool, and how some of them were also seeing these whales for the first time and seeing how excited they would get seeing them. That was really cool. The downside to these is that I tend to get seasick, so sometimes it was hard to take the pictures and also be like seasick in the boat. But that was a really cool experience, and one of my first like experiences doing like research and conservation work outside of university.
I want to ask one thing though. So whales are considered like a very scary animal. Like we have a perception that they're scary or they can attack you. So because you took pictures and you actually went there, so is it like that, or if you don't, as long as you don't bother them, they're not going to hurt you?
I mean, I feel like a whale can attack you by like if they jump over the boat, they are probably gonna sink the boat and kill you. But that's really something that like it's really, really, really uncommon for that to happen. And for that to happen, you would need to be like harassing the whale. If you're following them really closely, for example, sometimes there would be like, I don't know, 8 boats following one whale. So that is not a good practice, and that's probably gonna increase the chance that one of these accidents or attacks can happen, but it's not common for this to happen. And also, yeah, I feel like if you follow regulations, for example, if you keep your distance from the whale, if there are not a lot of boats following the whales, if you follow all these safety measures, it's not like common for them to attack you. And it's not like they're going to, I don't know, like try to bite you or something, but they could jump over the boat. And yeah, that could be potentially fatal.
As long as you do not like cross the line, they're not going to harm you or do anything. I think that's the case with all of the species, all of the animals on the earth. Okay, so talking about your research about the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute, you worked on corals and you worked on the microbial communities living corals. So I want to know that what role do these microbes play and why are they important for conservation of the corals?
Sure. So I like also really love corals. I did my thesis on coral thermal tolerance, and we were studying how different species would react to different temperatures and which were more resistant to high temperatures, which would not be resistant to these high temperatures. And afterwards, I went to the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute to kind of continue studying this. So the microbiomes will play a really important role in corals. So, for example, like we don't have a really complete understanding of these processes, but some microbiomes can help corals be more thermal resistant. For example, others can affect their thermal resistance negatively. Some people say that if the microbiome is more diverse, then the corals will be more thermal resistant. But this relationship is like really hard to, like we don't have such a complete grasp of what is happening. And also when I went to the Smithsonian, it was like a long-term project, but I was only there for like 3 months. So I did some like of the genetics and of the analysis, but I would really love to like explore more in depth all of this relationship between corals and their microbiomes. But like to summarize, they can affect like how the coral reacts to their environment. For example, how resistant they are to cold waters or hot waters. And this is very important, like in the face of climate change, for instance.
I also have studied during the courses that corals play an important role in even acting as an indicator of the climate change. They're important species to preserve them. So it's very amazing that you worked on it.
Yeah.
So since you have done so many researches, now you were also a research assistant, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Or a teaching assistant.
Yeah, I've been a research assistant and a TA as well.
So I want to know, like, is there any tip that you would like to give to other people on choosing a research topic or maybe some practices that they need to keep in mind while doing the research? Basically, how can they carry out a good research?
That's, I feel like a hard one. Well, I think basically trying to pick something that you like. When you are, for example, if you are like an undergrad, you're probably not gonna know what you wanna do like for the rest of your life, but you have to pick something that you're interested in and that you're passionate about. Because I feel like passion can really get you through the hard times. Sometimes things are not gonna be that easy when you do research. So you really have to like the topic that you're researching. And also in order to know what you like, I think that at the beginning of your career, it's really cool to be able to explore a lot of different things. So don't be afraid to like ask your professors if they have a space in their labs so you can like help them with some research. Try to like try to find as many experiences as possible because it's really fun, you know. You can get potential connections that will last for life, and also that will help you really know what you're passionate about.
I think one of the most difficult phases in the research, other than the lab work, is the literature review. Sometimes it becomes too difficult to deal with a lot of literature. So, do you have any like kind of tips on that to basically study multiple articles at one time?
What I used to do is like, for example, I would only like read the abstract of the paper and like try to get a general idea first. And then if I felt like that was relevant to my research, I would maybe get to the conclusion section. Like I would tend to skip the methods and the sections that were harder to understand in the beginning. And also I would try to write as soon as I like saw a paper that was interesting or important to my research, I would try to write about it rather than just accumulating papers that were relevant, because I feel like sometimes it's really easy to just read a lot but not process that information.
It's amazing that you said that we should also write it down, that which are most relevant. That helps a
Yeah.
lot because otherwise it's just accumulated and then you don't know where to go and which one to pick. So I love that. I'll definitely
Totally.
keep that in mind. I'm sure it will be helpful to a lot of students.
Yeah, thank you.
And
No, I figured that one out myself because I do a lot of research, read a lot, accumulate all of that info, and then don't use it in the end.
so because your research is eyes, so I understood that you studied a lot on animal behavior, like how animals behave, like you studied the coral behavior. So I want to know, like, what do you think that is it important to study the behavior of the animal before actually starting the conservation, or can you also conserve without studying the behavior in detail?
I feel like both should go hand in hand. It would be ideal to be able to do all of the research first and then go into conservation, knowing everything and having a clear plan of action on how to preserve these species. But unfortunately, nowadays, we don't have the time to do all of this. We have to do research hand in hand with conservation. And sometimes I would say even prioritize conservation first, because if we do all of the research first, probably by the time we are finished, like, well, research is never finished, but by the time we have a lot of information, some of these species will be already gone because some of them are so fragile. For example, corals are disappearing really, really fast. They are really affected by climate change, by ocean acidification, by a lot of human impacts. So I feel like sometimes, for example, when I worked in, like for my thesis, I worked in partnership with a coral nursery. So we were conducting our studies with the species they had in this coral nursery. A coral nursery is basically a place where they have these like tiny coral fragments and they like reproduce the corals. So it's like reforestation, but with corals. And so I feel like it was really important that they had this project going so that I could get the info to do my thesis research. It wouldn't have worked out the other way around. It's like a balance, but conservation is sometimes more important than the research, I feel.
I truly agree with that. I think it's more dependent on the situation. Like if a species is like on the worst of extinction, obviously you need to go for the conservation first, and then obviously you don't have the time to study the behavior that much in detail. Okay, so when
Yeah,
talking about
totally.
like conservation, it's also something that we always try to balance the human needs and the wildlife protection, because sometimes, like for example, if we take the example of a forest, if we want to conserve the forest, but then we also need timber for a lot of things.
Yeah.
So you have to balance them. But if I ask your opinion, like, do you think more priority should be given to the wildlife or the humans? Because I think mostly we prioritize the human lives. But then there's are some people who say that wildlife should also be prioritized. And then there comes another school of thought who say that if humans will not be there, who will protect the wildlife?
Yeah.
So what do you think is midway in all this?
It's hard to answer this one, but I feel like we should try to prioritize both and also to come with solutions that are beneficial to both. For example, with a lot of resources, the best thing is if you need to use the resource, at least do it in a way that is sustainable so that you can also have that resource for future generations. For example, when I did this externship with National Geographic and the Nature Conservancy with extern, when I did this research, I worked with a fish species called bacalao that it's very important culturally and economically for the Galapagos Islands. And it's basically endemic to the Galapagos. So this species changes sexes when they reach a certain like size and age. So for example, it's very important not to like fish the bigger fishes because they will be I cannot remember right now, but I think they would be the males and like the smaller ones would be the females. So if you fish the bigger ones only, you will not have males in the population. So it's really important to find solutions that are beneficial to both the community and also wildlife and nature. I feel like if the community has this information, they can like improve their fishing practices, and also it's easier said than done, but that will be beneficial for them in the long term. Also, many times, like if we like destroy the resources and really exploit them, in the end, future generations will not have them available. So, for example, with trees, I feel like we should, like, we cannot stop using them completely, but we should, like, leave some of them for the future, do reforestation or natural regeneration initiatives. Like, yeah, maybe, like, I don't have the answer, the one answer, but we should try to balance these needs.
When it comes to environment, there is no one answer. I believe like it's such a diverse topic that there are going to be different school of thoughts. And I think the best one is that we have to go for with the one that's the most sustainable, just like you said.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that. So moving on further, I also came to know and found it really cool that you're also a naturalist guide. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I work with a lot of different species, I feel, and I was a naturalist guide with frog species. Like I worked at Wikiri Sapo Parque, which is a place where they do these frog conservation projects. So basically, they breed in captivity species that are like really at risk of extinction, and they do this because sometimes it's really hard to do the conservation out there in nature because the ecosystems are being threatened. So at least they are preserving these species in order to be able to reintroduce them to their habitats in the future when these habitats are suitable for them to live again. So yeah, I was a naturalist guide there because the way that this initiative works is that one of the funding sources is like guiding people, like giving them a tour through the installations so that they can get to know all of these frog species from Ecuador, and that money goes into conservation, goes into the reproduction projects, into doing genetic analysis of these species, for example.
So I'm guessing it's like a ecotourism. Like you're
Yeah.
basically trying to tell the people who visit the importance of the ecosystem and how they're supposed to protect them and what can they do. I find it really cool because I think not much work is done in ecotourism, but slowly, even in Pakistan, like right now, we have a park called Sangamanga.
Oh.
It's just like a jungle, but there's captive breeding in there. So all the endangered species, they naturally kind of they're kept in the forest, and then people come in a safari truck and they kind of visit it. So like it's really cool.
That's
So it's
really,
good
really
to know that you
cool.
actually work in there. Yeah, so it's even
Yeah.
cooler that you actually worked with them because I just heard but I never saw it, but I've seen like in videos and pictures.
Wow.
So it's amazing to know that you worked in such a cool environment.
No, yeah, I would love to visit Pakistan someday. And also, I don't know if I answered the question about like how is it to work in there, but I feel like it was really cool. It was kind of a challenge because I had never worked with frogs before, but it was also like I feel like interacting with people and getting to see how they are excited about these species and their protection is always really cool.
I was going to actually ask you that how important do you think that environmental awareness is in terms of conservation? But kind of like, think you answered it too, but I would still love to know more about it.
I feel like it's incredibly important. For example, many times I feel like when we do science and, for example, I don't know, publish scientific research or publish a paper, these things are not really accessible to the general public, so they stay within the scientific community, and only a few people really get to read them or to try to understand them. So it's really important to get this knowledge outside of just the scientific community and give it to the general public, because these are things that interest the general public. And also, I feel like a lot of people are not that involved in conservation or don't like biodiversity that much because they just haven't got the chance to really experience it and know it. So public awareness is central to conservation. Like once again, if we don't involve the communities, conservation will not be effective in the long term, and it's one of the best ways to involve the community and even involve people in like the whole world outside the community. So yeah, I really like public awareness.
Yes, I totally agree with you on that idea, and I think this is also like concept where the concept of like natural history museum will also come. Like we have one in Pakistan, and its main aim is to basically aware the young children and then even teenagers about the floral diversity and animal diversity of Pakistan. So it's kind of a similar concept. So now talking about like some challenges. So what are some challenges that you faced during some of your researches, and maybe if you could share one of the most difficult challenges and how did you tackle it?
Well, let me think. The most difficult. Something that's really hard when you work in like conservation in general is like not having hope for the future, because sometimes you see like the destruction of nature and like directly, and I feel like that's like really hard sometimes. But when you see that there are all these people all over the world doing like trying to protect these different species, you can really feel like you're not alone. So I feel like having a network and connecting with other people and knowing their stories and hearing them can really help not to feel alone and hopeless when you sometimes encounter the hard parts of conservation. And on a more practical like light, I don't know, I also feel like sometimes doing research is hard, especially like the writing part and being in your computer till, I don't know, till late at night. Because, doing the field work or talking to the people or seeing the animal is really cool, but then creating a paper, for example, can be really draining. So I feel like, yeah, trying to see the big picture helps with these. Also, trying like not to procrastinate, but to just do a little bit each day at least helps a lot with this. Having support from your peers, from professors, from friends. Yeah, but those are the two challenges I can think of right now.
So we have a mini segment. So here's how this works. It's kind of like a rapid fire round, you can say. So you have two choices. One is the conservation hot takes. So this is like you need to come up with some controversial thought about conservation, some idea that you believe that you agree to it, but most people wouldn't. Or you can go for moments of nature. It's more like any kind of slogan or any kind of message regarding environment, nature that you want to give to the general public. So which one would you like to opt?
I think maybe the conservation hot take. Yeah.
Amazing, love it. Okay, so go for it.
So, okay. So I feel like all of this, like even me being in this podcast and a lot of my career, it started because I like was part of these National Geographic and the Nature Conservancy externship. And that was a wonderful experience. Like I learned about a lot about like from my community, and I also like had the pleasure to work with people from a lot of different places and from these incredible organizations. But this program has an age limit, from what I remember. I think when I last checked, it had the age limit. I think it's 25 years old. So I feel like putting this kind of age, I know that this is because they want to cater to young people, probably to people that are early on in their career, like to young conservationists, people that are not super established in the field. But I feel like putting this kind of age limits in like conservation opportunities is not a great practice because people can be early on in their careers without necessarily being in their early 20s. Some people change careers, or some people don't have the money to like attend university early on, so they discover their passion for conservation later. So I feel like there could be better ways to like maybe cater to early career people. Maybe I don't know how many years of conservation or research experience do you have, instead of putting these age limits. I feel like that could even be a little bit discriminatory sometimes. Yeah, I don't know, it's like a super hot take, but because I am probably here, like thanks to this amazing opportunity, I think that is something worth discussing because, yeah, I really want
Yeah.
more people to be able to benefit from it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The externship was so much beneficial for me, even in my career. I think I finally found the direction and the passion in the research in environmental science after doing this externship. Like, my research became super easy for me, that's for sure. But yeah, I do kind of agree that when there is an age limit, so a lot of people want to do the externship as well, but they cannot because of the age limits. So maybe like they can go for another phase, maybe like a phase particularly meant for people who are a bit more experienced in conservation above the age of 25, that can go. So this way the people who are young can get a chance and they can also, so there can be a suggestion for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, also if you have any suggestion for this, go ahead and give that maybe.
Yeah, so I think maybe a better way of catering to people that are early on in their career would be to like ask for how many like years of conservation experience they have, instead of like asking their age, because I feel like people can be early career. Like I think that it's very important to offer opportunities to people that are not established in their careers, but I feel like there can be some people that are also early career that are a little bit older. So yeah, maybe there's a better way to cater to early career. And I think that could be like asking for years of experience in research or in the conservation field. I don't know if like maybe some people could like not be totally transparent about this, but I think that we have to believe in like in the people.
Okay, so towards the end, I always ask my guests this thing. So consider it as maybe writing a letter to your future self. So I always ask, like, where do you want to see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years?
Okay, so um, I really, really want to see myself in Ecuador. Like, I would love to go like study abroad. I'm actually gonna go do my master's in the US probably, but I really want to come back to my country, and I want to see myself here doing research here and conservation work here, because I feel like I really want to give back to my community. I also see myself maybe working for my university, but a professor. I'm not super sure if I want to stay in academia, but I definitely want to explore the teaching side of it, because I really like also giving back this knowledge and skills to other conservationists, to other students, to other young people that want to follow the same path. And I really want to be doing marine biology. Hopefully, I see myself having a lot of field work and working with the communities in my country. I would love to work in the Galapagos and also in mainland Ecuador in the coastal communities. So ideally, I would like to be involved with the fishermen, for example, with the local organizations, with the NGOs that work in here. And yeah, so I see myself back in Ecuador, basically.
It's so sweet to hear that you kind of want to give the knowledge back by becoming a teacher. I think that is something that very less people have heard them say this. That's totally amazing. Because my mom is a teacher as well, so I'm like, yeah, I have huge respect for teachers because I think whatever we learn, if you're here, a part of that goes to teachers.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, you also secured a Fulbright scholarship, right?
Oh,
If I'm not
yeah.
wrong, you secured it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Tell us a little bit about it. If I could ask you really for one tip, like if someone's going for that, because normally when we apply for scholarships, writing the letter of intent or something, that's a big challenge. So if you have any tips on that,
Yeah,
maybe you
sure.
used, you want to share.
So it was really cool for me to secure this like funding, because if not, I wouldn't have been able to like attend studies. So yeah, but I feel like one really important tip is, maybe I have two. Like the first one would be to believe in yourself, because a lot of times we say like I am not like good enough for this scholarship. Do you see these scholarships as very competitive and you simply don't apply? And I feel like that like excludes you from a lot of really amazing opportunities. So just like go for it, because you have a lot to offer, and they are not searching for like perfect grades or for like perfect GPA and tons of externships. It's the story you can tell. So maybe the most important part of the application is the essays, like personal statement or study objectives. There's like the essays they ask for. And I feel like a really good tip for that is to really research the scholarship you're applying to and really see if your profile like fits well with that scholarship, because the fit between you and the scholarship, it's going to like really determine whether they choose you or not. For example, Fulbright is a scholarship that wants you to come back to your country and give back some of the knowledge you gain during your studies abroad, for example. Also, it wants you to like be really interested in getting to know the culture of the US, like of your host country. So I feel like if you really want those things for you, you will be a good fit, and that will be reflected in your essay. Like try to see how you can be a good fit for that scholarship and really what they want. For example, if I said I don't want to return ever, I want to like stay in the US, probably I wouldn't have been the best fit for that scholarship, and maybe I would have been better off like researching other scholarships like Erasmus Mundus that offer you the chance of staying in your like host country and collaborating to their like the things that they are doing. So really find your fit, like do the research to find a scholarship that is for you.
I'm sure this will be helpful to a lot of people because scholarships, especially for masters, is something that a lot of people or a lot of young researchers are aiming for it.
Yeah.
So before we go, where can people find you? Like maybe a LinkedIn, Instagram, anything where people can contact you.
Yes. So I have LinkedIn. I am like they can find me like with my name, Nardi de la Torre. I think that I am uh, like that's my name in LinkedIn, and I use it like I wouldn't say like all day, but I use it quite often. I have Instagram, but I don't have like anything posted there. I mainly use it to like follow other pages or like follow my friends and my family. So you can find me on Instagram, but you're gonna be disappointed because there's not and like I'm not very active on that social media. But yeah, I think LinkedIn would be a great way to contact me.
So, Nadi, first of all, thank you so much for coming here. Thank you so much for taking your time and providing us these amazing tips, not only in conservation, but also in the academia. This was totally an amazing and informative session, even for me. And I'm sure the listeners, it will be very helpful and informative for them as well. So, I guess that will be it for today. So, towards the end, again, wishing you a lot of luck for your future and a huge respect again to you for the amazing job that you're doing because not only are you a conservationist, but you're also returning the knowledge back as a research and teaching assistant. And I really hope you found this interesting. So, well, guys, this was all from your host, Noveera. See you soon again with another amazing episode. And until then, goodbye.
Goodbye.